This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the judge. We're going to get on. Welcome to the best hour show in the universe, Reasonable Doubt. Adam Carolla. That is Mark Garrigus over there. Lots going on.
Lots going on. I was going to say, 10 years ago, you could have said that we have bicoastal broads go with juries deliberating, but you can't say that anymore.
No.
So now we have to kind of sanitize it and say the jury is out in the Maxwell case. The jury is out in the Elizabeth Holmes case. One is in New York. The other is in California. They're deliberating as we speak. There's been a lot of complaints on both of these about the press coverage, which I find interesting. Both are being tried or are being tried in federal court. Mm-hmm. The Southern District and I believe the Northern District here. And both are women who have connections to men. It's interesting. In Maxwell's case, her man is no longer alive, Epstein.
Yeah. Do you believe that he committed suicide? Do you believe there was foul play? What is your take?
I don't think we have enough to make the decision that it's suicide. I find it hard to believe.
Oh, no, I thought you'd say we don't have enough to reach the conclusion it's foul play.
No, I think it's suspicious circumstances. In fact, if I were pressed to bet, I would probably bet against suicide, given what the lawyers have said, given what what we know in terms of being able taking a look at the place, the fact that they filed on two of the prison workers as if it's their fault, and I just think the idea of a coincidence that the camera was off at the time there makes little or no sense to me.
I can't remember what Dr. Bowden, the pathologist, said about it. But
I think he found that it was not consistent with suicide.
Yeah, he said that there was a certain...
I believe it was a clavicle break in a manner that he didn't like.
Yeah. Then also I heard that there was some evidence lost on that case. Gary can look into it, but maybe the FBI had lost some evidence, which seems weird because it doesn't seem like they lose evidence, but maybe if it helped them or their case. But so what do you think? Did her?
Some material from his safe that the FBI had access to went missing. That was revealed during the Ghislaine trial.
Which is, you might remember that we said at the time, there's going to be conspiracy theories forever because of the way this thing went down. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way it went down. And because there's prominent people involved, it's always going to spawn conspiracy theories. And I think that's one of the reasons the Attorney General, or maybe one of the reasons the Attorney General was so upset at the time. Because remember, his dad was the headmaster at the school that first gave Epstein the job in New York.
Well, that's right. He was a math tutor.
Yeah, math tutor. Apparently a math genius, at least if you're Mr. Wexler, who gave him quite a bit of money to manage and take care of things. And, I've thought that as far as the Maxwells that's unfolded, the defense is basically two things, or two-pronged. Number one, none of these women stated with great detail until the accusations against Maxwell, until many years later, and after they'd collected from the Jeffrey Epstein fund to the tune of millions of dollars. And interesting how the complaining witnesses were selected, that what they all shared in common is multi-million-dollar payoffs. That was the opening statement. Then the kind of sub-theme is, she didn't become the mastermind until he died. Mm-hmm. And so there was a shift. And they did, I think, an effective job. But then again, she was painted pre-trial with such a broad brush of a monster, an enabler, a groomer, whatever term you want to use, that's a hard hill to conquer, and also she was held under deplorable circumstances, which makes it even harder. You and I talked about a tenth of a second and the ideas of F1, and I always think of it in terms of any given Sunday, Al talking about an inch here, an inch there.
Pacino, yeah. Did any names come out in this trial?
Yeah, Trump, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, but not for the reasons that I think people wanted to hear. That these people were either on the manifest, but the pilot said, I never saw anything. The pilot also testified that he knew that Ghislaine and Epstein were a couple, yet he never saw anything untoward, and he wouldn't have stood for it if he did.
On the plane.
On the plane, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Look at you going straight to the plane.
Well, I just want to make sure that, under his stewardship, he did not see anything. But again, he's up front with the door closed, so who knows? But
I never asked the question. I wonder if they asked the question during trial, is there an aft or where was the lavatory? Because did he have to go through? Because on Big Boy, you got to go through the... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. The head's not up.
The head's not up front, exactly.
Did I was talking earlier on my show that I had a roommate once that had a Geo Metro, and it was a 4-door, but it had 3 cylinders. And I thought, you never want to have more doors than cylinders. You want a V12.
But wait,
why did
it have 3 cylinders?
It was like at a little Econo box that Chevy made in the 80s or the late 70s.
Mazda had that at one point, yeah, or no?
Well, they had a rotary or a Wankel engine, as they call it. It's the same thing, but it's a
interesting that we
system.
started this and we've gone to Wankel already.
But you want 2 bathrooms on your airplane. That's how you know you've really arrived.
Right
now, so. The names came up, but not in any real salacious way. I heard somebody say this is a trial that has Trump and Clinton and the royal family in it, and it's not got a lot of ink.
At all.
It seems pretty bizarre with names like anything royal family, anything Trump, or anything Clinton, you'd think would draw a lot of ink. It just didn't seem to capture the imagination.
Well, and it's kind of funny because if you're on the one side of the political spectrum, it's like you're harping on, Trump was all on the plane. Trump was on the plane. If you're on the other side, it's, Clinton was on the plane. Clinton was on the plane. And then if you're of another ilk, it's Randy Andy, blah, blah, blah. You never find this. I rarely found, I should say, in the internet sphere, the same person linking the 2 of them or the 3 of them together. It was generally just picking and choosing who it was you wanted to hoist.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember I was arguing with someone once who was saying Bill O'Reilly and what he did with those, what he did or didn't do. I still never figured out what Bill O'Reilly did, but he cut a check.
Yeah, it was phone sex.
Oh, was it phone sex?
Yeah, he was having phone sex. I think they kind of, I know there other stuff came out, but I think the original thing was a phone sex.
So I said, well, you're pretty bent out of shape about what Bill O'Reilly did with his underlings, but what about Letterman having sex with his interns? And they're like, well, that's consensual. I mean, that's not here nor there. And I said, well, if you're very upset over this thing, you should be equally as upset over that. And they're like, no. Not. And I thought, well, it's hard to go through life that way. Where
it's very hard to go through life. And why is it that people are so quick to judge? I guess it's part of the thing. If it's somebody who's high profile, I've never understood this, especially with the clients, is why are there certain people who are just, they get so much delight, they get so much pleasure almost out of ransacking somebody who's actually, by the way, most people who are high profile as opposed to notorious or infamous have worked and accomplished something. I mean, they don't get there just purely by luck.
Yeah, I was thinking about Joy Reid calling Elon Musk a leech or a taker or whatever. And I can't remember exactly the title she hung on him, but basically he was just, there's no ire for any welfare moms, but if a guy invents a bunch of corporations and employs millions of people, he is a big he's a big leech. He's a drain on the system somehow.
I saw today where he was. What did he estimate he's paying, Gary?
$11 billion.
$11 billion in taxes. And then the people who look, you want to take a criticism of this guy? I'll give you a criticism of this guy. Getting in bed with Erdogan, the dictator, kind of architect of Armenian genocide. That's how do you associate with Erdogan? But certainly the idea that you're going to tackle Elon Musk on the basis of what he's done in his business and his business acumen, it's like, well, what have you done in your life? I mean, there's somebody, I know that's kind of an ad hominem, and I get it. It's a fallacy, but it's the same fallacy, or it's a first cousin of the fallacy to attack somebody because they're successful.
Yeah, I don't remember what she called them exactly. Yeah.
I'll find the exact wording, but these senators and these politicians are crazy, because I would argue that Elon Musk knows the internet better than any single person alive and uses social media. I mean, the way he uses meme culture to just shape the internet, basically, these people are never going to beat him. But I'll find you the exact term.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, I realize she's got COVID. We'll have a moment of silence, but because she's both double vaxxed and boosted and shrill, but apparently she decided that was a good move to engage with him, as he's paying $11 billion in taxes.
She called him a selfish and disrespectful freeloader.
A freeloader.
$11 billion in taxes. I mean, you can hate the guy. I don't have a whole lot of use for him with his partnership with Erdogan, but $11 billion in taxes is, by the way, real money.
You could buy some school books with that money.
I think you could probably buy enough. You could probably shut down the schools and pay the teachers while they're sitting at home with the $11 billion. Could you?
Freeloader.
By the way, speaking of freeloaders, I sent you something yesterday, Gary, that really got me very angry.
Do you have a prediction with the Maxwell trial, by the way?
I think the best that she can hope for is the lawyer, I think the defense did a masterful job with what they had. So I would say the best they could hope for is a hung, but I'm sure that they're hoping for a not guilty.
Is it benefit her to have this kind of flying under the news cycle radar?
I don't think it hurts. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made trying a case was not having cameras in the courtroom. I've told you this for Peterson, thinking that I could damp down the psychotic nature of what was going on in the community, and had the opposite effect. And in this case, it really is flying below the radar. They've had kind of a perfect storm of other cases, other things going on, Omicron and that whole stuff, which I really want to talk about at some point because it's infuriating to me. But let's go to the other bicoastal case, which is Elizabeth Holmes, who in, I guess, contrast to Miss Maxwell, she took the stand. I think she was on the stand for a week. And by all accounts, if you're talking about a fraud and your mental state is what is at issue, which it is.
What are the nuts and bolts of that case?
Basically, it's fraud and the various iterations of fraud, and whether she was misleading people in order to get investments, in order to get them to put money up, and not disclosing what the troubles were internally.
That was the whole Silicon Valley thing where they made the doc about her and everything.
Correct. And it's all started with a Wall Street Journal article, and that guy or that woman, I guess it's a guy, has now started a podcast. He's got his own little cottage industry on trying to take her down, and that's his claim to fame.
So what do you think is going to turn out? How's that?
I think that case, I think she's got between hung and not guilty. Because people who were in the courtroom report that she was extremely convincing, that she believed in it. And the one fact, I always talk about bad facts, really good fact, she didn't unload her stock. She didn't sell off her stuff. And they used this theme, she went down with the ship. She You know, if she was trying to do a pump and dump, she never dumped. She might have pumped, but she didn't dump.
Sorry, Gary, what do you got?
Sorry, I've just been following along.
I'm alluding to Mark sending you something.
Yes, we do have a video here. Mark actually sent me two videos, the shorter of the two.
Before we start,
we will get to it.
Truebill. Wonder why free trials renew without your consent? Well, that's interesting. Without your consent. It's a scam. Don't let corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Wow, I'm ordering this today. Truebill, new app that helps you identify, stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, you can save up to $720 a year. Truebill has helped 2 million plus users save over $100 million. You know, they'd be better off on a contingency here and say, I want a percentage. Instead, they just tell you to link your accounts. Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one lap. And basically, instead of doing what some lawyer would do, which is they'd say, oh, you're spending $100 million. We want 40 million of that. We want our 40%. They do it on a very, very cheap basis, right, Gary?
That's absolutely right. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/doubt. Go right now, truebill.com/doubt. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/DOUBT.
Let me set this up. I know that we started with the two cases, but this just aggravated me yesterday beyond. I think it was you, Adam, who had seen on CNN Sanjay Gupta, Anderson Cooper, and somebody else. In fact, Gary, before we play this, maybe we've got to set it up.
She's the Asian doom and gloom.
Right.
They have two doctors they go to. They have the Asian woman who's doom and gloom, and they got
Dr. Liana Wen.
And there's Hoten. He's the guy with the bow tie who sits around.
So you had, I'll give you credit with your crystal brain, presciently pointed out, and you've been, I think, arguing this cogently for a couple of weeks, maybe longer, that why all of this fixation on the kids, right? That's been your thesis, right?
I've been arguing about it for 20 months.
Okay.
But it started off with, where's the ages?
Yeah.
That started off with, this is for old people. And then at some point, they shifted to the kids. And that's when I really
So, Gary,
started.
do you have that tape up? Sorry to make you...
We're pulling it up right now. Give me just another minute here.
And the reason I'm setting this up is I had not seen it until you had pointed it out. And you came up with the theory that they go for the kids, the younger kids, because...
Crate training.
Yeah. Exactly.
Got to get those dogs when they're puppies.
Here it is. Now, take a look at this. This is from how long ago, Gary?
This is a couple months back.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't even know if it's that.
I think it's more recent.
I thought it might have been October, but maybe it's November. It's possible. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
I saw it in real time and gave it to you just a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
I just don't have the date in front of me.
So this is... Pay attention to, you pointed this out. This is
this is not a couple months. This is a week and a half or something. I don't
know. Totally possible. I don't have the date, unfortunately.
I'm just saying, the reason I'm taking time on it is because I believe Mark's going to make the point that this is what they were saying 10 minutes ago. Now they're saying this, and I'm not giving them the satisfaction saying it was 2 or 3 months ago. I saw this recently, very recently, and we played it a week ago or something. But go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
And also to get a test 3 days to 5 days after they get back, just for that additional peace of mind.
I mean, here's the thing: if you have small children at home, you do need to take extra precautions that other people might not need.
I mean, you got to put a bubble around them, essentially. I mean, that's the philosophical component of herd immunity. You want a lot of vaccinated people around them. As Lena said, if you have someone who's vulnerable as well.
Got to build a bubble around the kids. Yeah,
December 2nd is when that was given.
Wow.
So it was presumably shot the night before on the 1st.
Right. So
this month.
Yeah. It hasn't been a month.
Yeah. This month.
Been 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. And then I see
a bubble around the kids.
Yeah. Then I see this, and this is Brian Stelter.
This is 2 weeks later, essentially.
Yeah.
The definition of cases is changing. with a highly transmissible variant, there are many, many, many cases, for example, here in New York City. More than 20 states are reporting rising cases right now. Of course, that's the Delta surge and then the new variant on top. So with this inevitability about more and more and more cases, what's the better metric to be using? How should we be evaluating the fight against COVID? Does the NFL point the way forward? The NFL this weekend saying, we're not going to be testing every player all the time for COVID because a lot of them are positive and they don't even know it because they're asymptomatic. The NFL is only going to test if people show symptoms, if players show symptoms. Is that the new way forward? It feels to me like in some media circles, this was the week where getting COVID became an inevitability. That there's this acceptance that everybody's going to get COVID eventually. Tens of millions of Americans already have, and everybody else is going to at some point. Is that the proper approach? Just to accept that at some point you'll be infected, which doesn't mean you'll get sick, doesn't mean you'll suffer, but at some point everyone will be infected? Is that the proper approach now? And if so, why is it still so hard to find at-home tests? Especially in blue America. By the way, pro tip, if you want to find at-home tests, get somebody in red America, in a red state, to mail them to you, since all the stores, at least here in New York that I've seen, are sold out. And here's another question, since we're hearing about schools closing again. We collectively took action to protect the elderly in 2020. Now, shouldn't we be doing more to protect children by letting them live normal lives? Are we really going to let the kids suffer even more? And are the facts about COVID getting through to the people who need to hear them?
Okay. Okay, first, we collectively, he's sitting in New York City.
Right.
Where the former governor is currently under investigation for placing COVID-positive people into assisted living situations, basically killing people, whether intentionally, unintentionally, whatever. We collectively helped. First of all, that premise. Then what about the children? 2 weeks ago, you were saying put them in bubble wrap.
Right.
Now you're saying we got to let them live. They have to be able to live.
Shut all the schools down while you're flooding the assisted living places with infecting people. You were closing schools down and getting everyone hooked on fentanyl and ODing and committing suicide and all sorts of gaining 20 pounds.
Ask Gary. I was so upset last night. I felt like running headlong into a cement wall. How insane! What? I don't even understand. Does anybody over there at any point say, wait a second here, take any responsibility?
Well, this is the bizarre revisionist history. It's like there's footage from a few days back with the Mayor London Breed of San Francisco going, what's going on with this crime? This is unacceptable. It's like everyone was saying, this is what's going to happen when you declare war on the police and you pull them back and you want to defund and you want to shrink this and you want to get rid of all these policies that help stem the tide of crime. Why is she up there now suddenly being able to decree, A, she doesn't know what's going on, and then B, why is this happening, and then C, like, who's responsible for this? Like, you're responsible for this because you're the person who was doing this a year ago.
It's astonishing to me in my side of the aisle how pitch perfect clueless these people are. Our people are. I mean, I don't understand virtually anything that is happening. I don't understand this approach to COVID. I don't understand what are they finally coming to the realization. By the way, you can read what's happening in South Africa where they've already gone over the peak, right? Mm-hmm. It's the most transmissible. They were the first ones who discovered it. They did the genetic and the genome testing. They understood it, and they reported, wait a second here, it doesn't look like it's causing serious disease. Then on the last reasonable doubt, we took the Ithaca, New York State example, a week ago, right?
Right.
97% vax, guess what? It breaks through. I wonder why. Do you think it's possible that a vaccine that takes a year and under warp speed to develop couldn't anticipate the mutative qualities of a virus, which, by the way, eventually everybody was going to have to get? Otherwise, it was never going to go away. This is, we're talking about a virus that is not measles. It's not a one and done, right? We've understood that for 20 months. You and I have been talking about that, right?
Well, it's interesting. And Gary, something else to look for. Chris had it. I think I played it with Drew, which was the CNN down at the beach. Down in Florida clip.
Yeah, I was the one who found that. I'll get it up.
You found that? You got that somewhere? We're going to whack out the middle part?
I do not have the whacked out version, but I will see if I can get it from Chris. I will have your London Breed clip in a minute, though, if you want to have fun with that.
Yeah, you can do that. But it's surreal when you go back and you play a clip from, 2000, I don't know, May or March or something, 2020, and CNN's got the reporter down at Daytona Beach, and she wants to know what's going on with all these people walking on the beach, and this could be a super spreader event and stuff. You go like, what the fuck? I tell you, I tweeted something out. Somebody tweeted me something on Saturday. I was sitting around watching Natalia play volleyball for 11 hours in Corona, and because 7.5 hours is not enough teenage volleybaull. You got to watch.
You got to
11
get 11.
So they were showing me some tweets about how Fauci. If you look, all you need to know is this: the Great Barrington Declaration came out. It's a bunch of guys from Harvard or Stanford, epidemiologists, guys with real credentials, said, "Look, here's how to handle this," and locking people down. And telling them to put a mask on. This is not going to work. Here's what we need to do. It's all the stuff we're now learning. Oh,
by the way,
they knew it a year and a half ago.
Exactly a year, 13 months ago, when we filed against the County of Los Angeles, we attached declarations from these same guys, the Great Barrington guys.
Right.
We were mocked by the County of Los Angeles 13 months ago. Guess who was right and who was wrong?
Right. And so now it's one thing to be wrong, but it's another thing to find emails of Fauci talking to the head of the CDC or WHO or whoever he's conversing with going, hey, there's this Barrington Declaration. It's a problem for our theme. Essentially, well, we want people to do this, and then the declaration saying to do something else. So how do we rub some dirt on that? How do we sling a little mud? Well, let's call these guys fringe guys, outsiders. It's the same fringe guys who thought maybe it came from the Wuhan lab. These are tinfoil hat wearing. We're just going to pillory anyone who disagrees with us. I never grew up knowing that there was such a thing as a Harvard or Stanford epidemiologist with 30 years experience who was a fringe player. You know what I mean?
I'll take it a step farther.
A carpetbagger just rolled into town drunk. So there were some emails. I'll just say the tweet I put out. So it was like, how do we shut these guys up? Like, this is getting a little traction on the internet. We gotta tamp this down. It was the same thing they did with the Hunter Biden laptop. Like, hey, this is getting a little traction. All right, let's tamp it down. Let's get some experts from the FBI to sign that this is Russian collusion. Okay, by the way, sorry, Gary. That's not your job to tamp down information, especially stuff that happens to be true. But I said this in my tweet.
Okay, let me see the tweet.
I said, I know Gary doesn't have it. I will paraphrase. Okay. I said, I have learned nothing about infectious diseases from the last year and a half. How it transmits, Lysol's it good, is a mask work. I've learned nothing about that. But I have learned a shitload about how the government works.
I remember.
I've become an expert in the government. That's really, if you want to get something out of the whole pandemic, again, variants and how it's spread, and everyone's got their own opinion. Do the vax work? Blah, blah, blah. But I've gotten a front row seat to how the government works, and it's a little scary.
Okay, this is what is so... I have spent, in the last 20 months, thousands of hours not even going to talk about the amount of resources that are deployed, to have ad hominem attacks against the people that I've used as experts, who are these very people. Mind you, the guys from the Barrington, they signed the declarations that are attached to the motions we filed. And, by the way, Judge Chalfant, who issued that 53-page order, he should be the judge of the century because he's the first guy who actually called them out in real time 13 months ago when nobody had the guts to do any of this and said, you don't have any data. You got nothing. All you got is basically telling me I can't say anything. I can't challenge you. Now to find out that all the people who said, mind you, I'm going to take it one step further. All of these guys who were behind the scenes smearing other scientists, very well-known scientists, they weren't following the science. Follow the science should have been follow the leader, follow the moron, because they were science. The whole idea of science, the scientific method, is a give and take. It's a dialectic. It's you go back and forth. You take data.
You challenge each other's theories.
Theories, exactly. That's why we have peer review. That's why peer review doesn't mean throwing eggs at a guy who you don't like because he's got a theory. Some of the greatest discoveries in mankind based on scientific theory were guys who were considered the fringe to start off with, and then it turned out they were right. Here to see the absolute hubris and arrogance of people as they are killing tens of thousands of businesses just in this county, at the same time that they are in an active campaign to smear very, well-known, very well-credentialed guys, is breathtaking.
Well, again, you have to ask yourself whether it's where did COVID emanate from? Did it come from the lab? Your job is not to pick apart people that have alternative views.
Right.
Your job is to listen to them and see if there's any merit to those views and how that may affect policy. The notion that you're burning calories calling anyone who says it leaked from a lab or the Barrington Declaration, or the fact that you're burning calories ad hominem, trying to destroy their reputation, suggests there's something going on more than just your job. Well, I'll play you. It'll be surreal, but this is from Jacksonville. This is Anderson Cooper. Now, everyone, this aired in April of 2020, but listen to what it sounds like with just a few, 16 months worth of patina on it.
The case in Jacksonville, Florida, where beaches reopened, and well, Randy, what happened next?
Well, Anderson, it was a mad dash here for the ocean. Once police gave the all clear, all the people who had been lined up in the streets waiting to get to the beach when they opened today at 5 p.m., they just flooded the area. They were biking, they were running, they were swimming, surfing, they were fishing, some of them. A lot of people brought their dogs. It was as if they had been cooped up for so long, for years. That's how they were behaving, when really it had only been about a month because they first closed this beach on March 20th. Well, this is what the mayor of Jacksonville is saying. He says, Lenny Curry is his name, he says that these are essential activities, that all of those activities, those recreational activities on the beach are considered essential, and they are well in line with the Florida governor's executive order. So he says it's okay. He is limiting the hours on the beach, Anderson, from 5 to 8 p.m., so it just closed a short time ago here, and also from 6 to 11 in the morning. So the hours in between there.
By the way, you have
going to get into
so we talked to some people. We asked them what it was like to be back on the beach today. We also asked them if they saw any social distancing, because from what we could see, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on.
All right, pause. All right, all your B-roll is social distance people. I said it at the time. Have you ever been to the beach, laid your towel down, and had a stranger come and lay his towel down right next to yours? Social distancing is it's an unwritten rule of the beach. It's what you do at the beach. You over here with your family and your friends.
But can I also comment? This is another thing that drives me crazy. Why do the hours matter? Did like 6 to 9? What happens at 9:01? Does COVID go to bed at 9:01?
No, but we have Gavin Newsom. He's shrewd. He shut the beach altogether.
Right.
So jogging and walking your dog and
he
exercising.
said, hours don't matter, so I'll just shut it all together. By the way, I'm going to say it one more time. 13 months ago, in written paperwork submitted under penalty of perjury to the LA Superior Court and subsequently to the Court of Appeal, we said you can track these shutdown orders to the spikes in COVID because there is no data that shows it has anything to do with outdoors. You're forcing everybody indoors, which is increasing the transmissibility.
Well, ironically, and not that we have to put too fine a point on it, but the beach is probably the safest place on the planet.
You mean
for
wind,
COVID?
Wind and water and sunlight?
But Anderson wants to know about social distancing. Why aren't these Americans complying? But they are. You can play the rest of it, Gary. Sorry.
Still do their social distancing here on the beach, try and keep 6 feet away from each other at least,
They're
but
all
certainly
6 feet
we
away.
weren't seeing a whole lot of that. We saw people with coolers set up on their beach towels, sunbathing. So it didn't feel like there was really any hint that we were in the middle of a pandemic on this Jacksonville beach today, Anderson.
They hate that. People ignoring them and going about their fucking lives. That's sacrilegious to them. We are in New York. We're scared shitless. We're atheists who are overly educated. And we're telling you druids what to do. And you're putting a towel down.
With
you're
a
surfing
cooler on
with
it?
a cooler on it. Probably have a domestic beer in there.
Some of them were fishing.
Some were fishing.
Huh?
Some were surfing. By the way, unless you're Frankie and Annette Funicello and you're doing the longboard with her on your shoulders, all surfing is
socially distanced.
That's
and by
that's
the
what
way,
it is.
the whole idea of viral transmission of a viral load while you're on a surfboard on a wave, I think is probably about the safest place you could be.
Yeah, but now conversely, we arrested the guy who was doing a stand-up paddleboard alone in our harbor over here.
We also bulldozed the sand, didn't
The
we?
volleyball
Yeah,
courts.
the
Yeah, 'cause
volleyball
we don't
courts.
want people outside
We don't want
playing
people
volleyball.
outside playing volleyball.
All right.
God knows the police tape on the trails, that was smart.
My whole thing was there was never any science behind that. I knew intuitively being outdoors and exercising the best place you could be, especially at the beach. And there you go, Gary. Especially at the beach. And this was they were just flexing their muscle. And that's it. And in their corner is Anderson Cooper, who wanted to know what was going on with people at the beach. That was a year and a half ago. And 10 minutes ago, he wanted to know what was going on with kids, having to build a bubble around them.
And apparently Brian Stelter didn't get the memo.
Do they ever stop and think perhaps we may be incorrect about something that has to do with this disease?
And why? By the way, I commit mistakes all over the place, littered across the country. Why not own them? Why not own the mistakes?
That's a good question. I'm curious what's going on with that case and Tinhorn Flats and all that. Here's London Breed though. She's upset about the crime spike that's going down in her own San Francisco.
It's time that the reign of criminals who are destroying our city, it is time for it to come to an end. And it comes to an end when we take the steps to be more aggressive with law enforcement, more aggressive with the changes in our policies, and less tolerant of all the bullshit that has destroyed our city. We are going to turn this around. This is a city that has a population of less than 1 million people with an over $12 billion budget. The residents of this city have been extremely generous in providing us with the resources we need to make a difference. And now, the priorities we need to make must be to protect them, must be to turn things around in their neighborhoods. When you are in a room full of people, I would say probably anywhere between 90 and 95% of folks could raise their hand and say that either their car has been broken into, or they've been a victim in some capacity or another.
All right, we get it.
That is not okay.
You know what's not okay?
Tired of this.
You know what's not okay? What's not okay is crime is always. I mean, I feel like I'm back in the 80s all over again. It's always these politicians who get up there and they want to be either tough on crime or not tough on crime. I used to comment on this during the protests and used to say, I never thought I would live long enough. I used to tell you that, where people would be saying, we don't want sentences. We want to free people up. We shouldn't have these nonsense, life sentences, things of that nature. They can almost get whiplash from watching her in the last year and a half. And by the way, the district attorney in that, San Francisco is both a city and a county. The district attorney would take issue with everything she's saying, both a year and a half ago and now. And it's pandering. It's just awful.
Yes. It's bizarre because it's you saying, which way is the wind blowing politically? Year and a half, it's blowing this way. I'll get on that train. And then the wind shifts, and now you got a bunch of citizens and smash and grabs, and everyone's scared to go downtown. So then you just do that, and you never do the part where you say, by the way, there's tons of high-def footage of you saying the exact opposite thing 14 months ago.
Opposite, and you're worried about the bullshit? Like, she knew that was going to be, it was going to go viral. Oh, here's the mayor screaming bullshit. I call bullshit on your back must be from doing a backflip from 14 months ago. I don't even know how you get out of bed. You must have a resident chiropractor because you have you have there's no spine whatsoever.
Look, one of my happiest moments of the COVID, I had two happy moments. One is when I was walking on the horse trail and the guy got out of the car. Want to know, he's putting police tape around the head of the trail. Want to know why citizens were walking under the tape and going along the walk. I mean, you look at these things like you look back historically, and you go, Jesus, in the 50s, there was two drinking fountains. There was a black drinking fountain, a white, and you go, what the fuck were we thinking? But this is looking back to 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to talk to our grandfather's corpse to get to the answers. This shit was going on in months ago, that they were bulldozing the volleyball courts and arresting people in the bay and putting tape up on
putting
the horse
your
trail.
High school classmate out of business because he had the temerity to say, I want to keep people employed.
Right. And so when people say to me, why do you have to be such an asshole? Like, why did you go to Tinhorn Flats with your son when the city closed it down? Or why did you happily walk under the police tape that was at the head of the trail? Or why did you yell at the guy at the Doctors on the TV show, The Doctors, who was interviewing me, explain to me? I said, why'd you close the beach? It's like, well, we didn't know back then. I go, you didn't know the beach was safe. You didn't know. Well, then you're not an epidemiologist. What do you mean you didn't know? By the way, is this how it works? You're an expert. And so you're an expert and you're in charge of policy. And then all your policy that's totally ineffective, 10 months later, you get to just go, well, we didn't know.
We didn't know.
Well, then what are you doing?
Well, now you get to add in okay, I'll accept you didn't know. However, why did you feel compelled to smear at the same time along the way?
Or if you didn't know, why did you shut down the beaches?
Right.
You didn't know.
Right. What are you erring on the side of
shutting beaches down?
We'll just close down society, businesses, and everything else. By the way, how could anybody have ever in a million years expected we would have raging inflation after we just digitally print money so that people can sit on their ass and not have to do anything and stay employed and not have to pay rent or do anything else?
So anyway, when people say, why are you being an asshole? Why are you taking these stands? I go, well, you know how people are proud of when you go back to the civil rights where and they go, I was on the right side of history. I want to look back and go, I was the guy who went to Tinhorn Flats with my son and had a burger. I was the guy who went under the police tape on the horse trail. I was the guy who yelled at the guy from the Doctors that he was an idiot for closing the beach down. Like historically, that's where I want to live. So that's why I do it, or yelled at the teachers' unions for closing down the schools. Is there any, by the way, the closing of the schools is the biggest travesty / scam there was. The fact that whoever's running the teachers' unions was communicating with Fauci.
By the way, there is now, I believe it's Randy Weingarten, and
Yes.
I was reading something. Talk about revisionist history. I was fighting. I was on the forefront to keep the schools open. What?
Right.
Hello?
She was telling
Somebody hacked your body.
Someone was telling Rochelle Walensky to shut the schools down after she said it was okay. I mean, the revisionist history is insane, especially when there's lots of digital data, film, microphones, print, of you saying the exact opposite a year ago. But
the New York Times I'm reading has changed their headline on that article twice.
Twice, yeah, because she was a champion of children who may save the schools, was their first one.
Can this woman save American public education? Then we desperately need schools to get back to normal. I'm not sure what the third one is.
I don't understand it. I hate to say it, but this was not really hard to figure out in real time.
No.
You could, people, Drew was subjected to a campaign that nobody should have to go through when he started talking initially and said then he remember when they had to flog him into saying, I didn't know about or I underestimated, or Fauci was my North Star. A lot of, you take it back, you look retrospectively, and you want to pop Drew. I want to pop Drew for apologizing, because there were remember that video somebody clipped together of him that went viral? Yeah, I'd love to play that now and point out certain things.
Well, you'll be glad to know that unlike the cowardly Drew, when I went viral for sending a tweet out that said this thing kills old people and it kills sick people and the rest of you pussies got played. And the question is, who's next? When are you getting played next time? Judd Apatow called me and he said, you better take that tweet down. And I said, nope, it's staying up. And my biggest regret is I misspelled pussies. I did it with a Y. That's my greatest lament.
For those who say, well, you didn't have a loved one. I did. My mother, by the way, December of last year, we just had her 1-year memorial. And the interesting thing was, at the very time that I was discussing with my brothers how to do her end of life, right? The doctor had said, this is it, right? Mm-hmm. Matt, unfortunately, had COVID, had gone there to spend the night.
Your brother.
My brother.
Contractor brother.
No, the lawyer brother.
Lawyer brother.
Lawyer brother. And she apparently died of COVID. They didn't test her.
She was
91.
91.
Yeah, 91. She'd been ill for a number of years. And we were at the exact time, literally within hours, talking to the doctor about end-of-life issues, right?
Yeah.
And then, but, that's...
Well, no one ever said it wasn't going to kill people that were in their 80s and 90s. I sent that tweet out August 2020, by the way. So what is an update on Tinhorn Flats?
Well, the city of Burbank just filed. We did an amended complaint. They are now demurred to it, which is the legal term for motion to dismiss. They're saying that they're wrapping themselves or cloaking themselves in the idea that they've got immunity. They're the government. You can't sue the government. It was a public health issue, and we were just going along with what the county health officer had told us. And so don't blame us. Go find somebody else to blame. Isn't that wonderful? Who knows? I don't win any friends in the judiciary, but I will tell you that, and I've said this before, the judicial branch, in a lot of ways, has been shocking to me in what they will allow under the COVID Constitution. I just do not understand the deference that has been given to people who not just are unelected, but it's been proven have been wrong. Almost, I've told you this before. I had a professor, Wyatt McGaffey, in college, who used to have a theory that he beat into our heads. he wouldn't like that, but that 80%, the best you can get is a theory that accounts for 80% of the evidence. That's about as good as you can get in the social sciences and political science and those kinds of things. These people don't even get the 20% right.
Right.
They've been wrong at virtually every point, and they've been wrong without any kind of a basis, which is shocking and really disturbing. And now we're going to clean up the mess by basically attacks on those very same people. And when I say attacks, that's what inflation is. Inflation is the government tax for screwing up.
Yeah, they've been working under these kind of auspices of what superstitious natives do, which is there's a surge, let's do something. Throw the Virgin in the volcano. So there's a surge, let's stop outdoor dining. There's a surge, let's bulldoze the volleyball courts at the beach. And then when the surge goes away, because there's an ebb and a flow to everything, they go, oh, okay, well, I guess it worked.
Right.
So it's
there's
almost
no
like
correlation, causation, nothing. It's just this idea that's, like I say, you can plot all of these things. They've always got, you pointed out, which one, was it Florida again with the spring break? Remember that one? You pointed that out.
Right.
I pointed out, well, what happened on Thanksgiving and Christmas last year, and that whole, it's because we cut out outdoor dining. Therefore, it went, the cases went down. No, they actually didn't. They spiked up when you did that almost to 10 days to a week afterwards.
Well, to be fair to what you've been saying in the Barrington Declaration saying is it's not that there are no consequences to making the wrong decisions. There are dire consequences to making the wrong decisions. So when you say outdoor dining is dangerous or walking your dog on the beach is dangerous, it's not just you're wrong. It is you're putting people back inside where COVID is spread. So it's not just sort of, it's not like you place a bet, you lose so you don't get paid. It's no, you have to pay now. So taking people and locking them up is what aided the spread.
Exactly.
You would have loved to have, there should have been National Beach Day where you're encouraging everyone to go out and get some vitamin D, by the way, from the sun, providing that, and fresh air, exercise. We found out that locking people up, getting out of vitamin D and having everyone pack on 30 pounds was the worst. That's the worst thing you could do for this, knowing what we know now. The question is we know what we know now. We had ideas about what we knew then. You guys are experts. The whole reason you're getting paid, Barbara Ferrer, is that one of the highest paid people in the county. We're paying you to have a field of expertise and to help aid in these things, not make a bunch of wrong decisions, shutting schools down, shutting beaches down, locking kids up, welding bars in front of the hoop on an outdoor basketball court at a park. I mean, it's Orwellian when you really think about having kids play outdoors on a schoolyard would have been about the best damn thing they could do versus lock up, slam fentanyl, and watch porn all day. Which, by the way, we now have proof of that as well. More, I think Gary can look it up. I'll buy you a second because I'll do a spot. But I think more Americans 18 to 45 have died because of fentanyl ODs than of COVID. So in the
I don't even need to look that up. That's 100% true.
In the window of adult, 18 to 45 is a pretty decent sized window there. Right. If you think about your life and what you're doing at 18 and what you're doing at 45, it's like 40 something thousand, 46, 48,000 COVID, 70,000 fentanyl ODs in that age range.
Do you want to tease it or do you want me to give it to you now?
Tease it. Let's tease it out. First, I'll tell you about cerebral. Last year, anxiety and depression rates doubled in the U.S. We were just talking about this. Takes weeks to get traditional therapy appointments. Cerebral. Online mental health services that offer prescription medications, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and more. One of the few services that provides prescription medication online through a licensed provider and ships meds straight to your door. Unlimited messaging with your care team. Connect with your counselor and therapist on your own schedule through your laptop or Cerebral's mobile app. Simone Biles, oh, that's right, the gymnast, is their chief impact officer. She's a huge advocate for reducing stigma around getting treatment. It is Cerebral, right, Gary?
That is absolutely right. Listeners of this program can receive 65% off your first month of medication management and care counseling at getcerebral.com/doubt. Go to getcerebral.com/doubt for 65% off your first month. That's just a total of $30 to get started. Join Cerebral today on their mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all.
What a great sponsor to have.
Do you have that data?
Yes, this is from the Families Against Fentanyl, found that in the year between 20 and 21, 79,000 people between the ages of 18 and 45 died as a result of fentanyl. I'm trying to find the exact number on the COVID, but they are listing COVID as the third leading cause of death in that age group behind fentanyl and suicide.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. An unintended consequence, everybody.
Right. Well,
scare the shit out of young people, lock them up, and there'll be other ways for the Grim Reaper to find them. These experts could not delineate between old people and young, healthy people and how this disease impacted those two groups.
And by the way, we've said it for almost 2 years now. There isn't a single one of them that I've seen, at least, statewide, countywide, whatever state you want, who would last an hour on cross-examination in a courtroom.
I would love them to just get one of these so-called quacks from the Great Barrington Declaration and let one of those epidemiologists go ahead and cross one of these so-called experts.
Had a chance to dig a little deeper. The number for COVID is 53,000 during that time period.
So it's basically 50 versus 80.
Give or take,
essentially. Yeah. All right. You can go to AdamCarolla.com. I'm going to be at the Brea Improv on New Year's Eve doing a show, early show, so you can come out and say hi to that. And also, we're going to be at, where are we in Portland, Gary? Is that up there?
Yes, that was taken down because I thought this was going to air a little later. But we were in Portland on Wednesday and Thursday of this week, the 22nd and 23rd.
Come say hi and press the flesh or bump the elbow or whatever you people do over there in Portland. You can go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows and our Pluto TV channel 687. Watch all our racing movies as well. What do you got?
Prova, both in Times Square and the Grand Central Terminal. Go down to Gigi's at the V or St. Clemente. Go stay at Casa Tropicana or downtown Engine Company 28 or 10E Mediterranean Tapas.
So until next time, Adam Carolla for Mark Garagos and Gary saying mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.